when I joined the church, there's gonna be a lot of love bombing. You're gonna feel that these people care about you and they love you, especially if you have like in my opinion, if you got your head on your shoulders, you're going to school, you got a good job, or you can contribute in some kind of way, and or you're an intelligent person, you're a good speaker, or anything that benefits, that trait, they're gonna treat you like they're gonna love bomb you, and they're gonna make you feel very important and very special, and you're gonna feel those things, and they're gonna encourage you to that you're in the truth. So now you can't just keep it to yourself. You got to go share the message with others, and that's what God would want you to do. And we're on a mission. We need to save these people before World War III breaks out. My thing that I would tell the members is that when you're going to this church, pay attention to what they tell you, that how you're saved and how it changes with time and with conditions. And that should be your first flag, is that what they originally told you was gonna, one of your acts was gonna save you, and then that one act of salvation that you perform then turns into another act and another act. Then you need to start realizing that there's something wrong with what they're teaching, because they're teaching you first that you do this one single act, you're good. And trust me, they do say that. And
they keep moving the goalpost further and further.
Exactly. And seeing the members don't even realize that. Even the members that are in it, they're just looking at it as, oh, we're just studying truth with them. They're not even realizing that the goalpost is being moved for them as well, because it's never enough, even for the leaders, even for leadership, and so it's that's one of the first red flags. But so I was in the church 2010, and I went through all the motions. When I came in 2010, I remember I came in right in the end of the 10 talent movement, to where if you didn't if you bore 10 talents, which means you got people that were keeping service and they were tithing, and you got 10 of them, you got a little black case with a gold coin in it from Heavenly Mother, and you were good. And if you didn't get one of those, then you were pretty much a wicked servant that was wasting time, and it wasn't going to be good for you. And then 2 years later, 2012, it was the completion of the Jerusalem temple, and it was going to be the completion of the Jerusalem temple was going to be the end of the world. And I remember I even had it written down. I actually have my agenda right here from 2012, as you can see right here on the screen. Yep. I can't make this up. And then I got it. Where is that? Right here, November 2012, completion of the Jerusalem temple. And so this was the time that we were supposed to go to heaven, because it was according to the prophecy. We had to go to heaven, because it was the completion. There's going to be no more material, and it was like the prophecy of Moses. Once Moses was commanded by God to tell the Israelites to stop bringing material to build the tabernacle, so we were also told, Heavenly Mother said that's enough, and we have enough to go to heaven. But what happened was, when we started getting closer to the date, the goalpost moved, and I could,
and it was blamed in large part on you guys too, right? Because you weren't ready, you weren't prepared, and you need to repent more and stop sinning and whatnot. It's your fault that it didn't happen. Right.
And anyone that says that these teachings were not taught in the Church of God, and that it's a lie, come see me, because I have a bunch of wow. I have, trust me, I saved everything. I have books on top of books and notes on top of notes. I have countermeasures, because they have countermeasures for everything. Even earlier I heard you guys, the other day I heard you guys talking about, you were mentioning about how he cannot die again in Romans chapter 6, I believe.
Yeah, that's one that we talked to you about in our first conversation.
Yeah,
Romans chapter 6, I think.
Yeah, we got a whole.
It says Christ having died once will never die again, or something like that.
Yeah, and see, I got a bunch of, we got very detailed, countermeasures for, like, countermeasures coming on the clouds, what that means, and what you were here. You were saying. Remember, you were talking about this one last time about how I'm home and King David only reigned for a certain amount of years. He reigned one part, in Hebron, and then the rest in Jerusalem. Well, guess what? They got a countermeasure that too. It's like literally they got countermeasure because they know that there's so many holes in their doctrines that they try to come up with all these
keep it all the plugs in. Yeah.
Right, but again, there's not enough plugs because once they plug one thing up, you see so many different, like specifically in the prophecy of King David. But anyway, to get back to my story, I'm sorry for kind of getting off track, but
no, you're good.
So basically, I went through the motions. I was a teacher. They raised me up to study against, people, pastors, and I mean, you got to witness that, firsthand. That I went with the deacon, and we studied with you guys, and and so I was really confident in what I believed, and I thought I had the truth, and all these things. And what happened was I think it was like beginning of 2021 or late 2020. I ended up getting sick. I had some liver issues, and what happened was I actually had a stone lodged in my bile duct, and it was causing like this a lot of crazy stuff to make my liver malfunction. I had no idea. I ended up going to the hospital one night. They told me my liver enzymes were high, and it's a whole big ordeal. They had to keep me there. They said I had to have emergency surgery and all this. And so I'm in the hospital, and you got to remember, this is like in the beginning of COVID, and this is when you even right now you can't have anyone in the hospital with you. So I was there by myself, and I'm sitting in the bed, and I'm thinking like, man, I gotta have surgery, in the morning. It's emergency surgery. They're not telling me that much information. I just know there's something wrong with me. And at first I'm thinking in my head like, hey, I've done so much, like I've bore hundreds of fruits, I've tithed, I've kept the Sabbath, I've preached, I've brought in so many people, I'm always trying to do the gospel work, I'm always helping members, I'm always doing all these things, I'm gonna be good. And I couldn't stop thinking like that whole night until before my surgery that I didn't have any peace, and that I wasn't sure that if I was to not make it, from the surgery, that if I was going to go to heaven or not, if I had did enough for father and mother to go to heaven. And I remember that wasn't a good feeling to have, especially when you're in the lowest of lows, when you're in the bottom of the pit, man, when you need help, you need assurance the most, when you have no one there. I thought I could at least count on that, and I had no peace. I felt that I didn't know if I was going to make it or not. And when I would try to read the Bible for confirmation, to see like, man, it's got to be something with me. It is clearly an issue with me. So let me try to refine my faith by studying the Bible. Look at the examples of the prophets or the apostles before me to see what was their attitude in situations like this. And yet I see them, facing death, and they weren't scared. And you have Apostle Paul who said stuff like, to live is Christ and to die is gain. And you see these apostles being martyred. You see, Daniel and the prophets in the Old Testament, and they have so much, faith. And so I'm just thinking like, okay, there's something wrong here, because I've done everything the church has asked me to do, yet I don't feel like the apostles. I don't feel like these, Stephen, I don't feel like these people in the Bible, these Christians that are saved and that are, they're literally facing death, getting stoned, and looking up to heaven, smiling and seeing Jesus and feeling this peace, and and feeling safe and comfortable, and they don't, and I don't have that. And so, I remember after I got out of the hospital, I came out good, thanks to God, and I kind of suppressed all those feelings that I had, and I just kind of put it in the back burner and was like, okay, Father, Mother got me out of this, and I just got to thank Father, Mother for this, and I just got to, keep doing what I was doing. And, I started to go to I was going to the church still, but I was starting to have something stirring in my heart. And, and I had already, at this point, I had already listened to so many different Christians, and apologetics, and, I had talked to you guys, and I had talked to so many people, and all those things were still in my mind, but I never really, processed them. They were just kind of sitting there, because I still kind of, my heart was like, no, this has to be the truth. But it was a time when I was in the church, and I was listening to the sermon, and I was just like, man, I don't feel right. I can't shake this feeling. I don't know what it is. And then what started happening is I started remembering the time that I was in the hospital. And I kept it, and it wouldn't. Every day I kept going back and thinking. I didn't want to remember it. I didn't, because those were some of the worst days of my life. And I was and I kept going back to it and thinking to myself, why didn't I have any peace? Why didn't I have any peace? And that's when I really started to ask myself the question, if once I started reading the Bible, because I remember I started, again, I was like, well, there's something wrong with me, so let me search the scriptures. And I'm searching the scriptures, and I'm seeing these apostles, and they're relying on the gospel, and they're feeling safe. Now I'm looking past the part where they're saying that if they die, that they know they're going to be good, and I'm seeing the reasons why, and why they're so confident, and the gospel that they're preaching. And I'm like, why didn't I see that before? And why don't I look at it like that? Why is it that my security depends on stuff that I do, when the apostles and these people of faith in the Bible, the reason they feel so secure and protected and comfortable with whatever outcome is because it's not anything that they could do, but it was what God did for them, and they knew that ultimately they were good. That no matter what happened to them, because they were in Christ Jesus, that they were good. And that's why things like, what Paul said is, to live is Christ and to die is gain, those things stood out to me, because the apostles had no fear of death, because they knew that, God loved them so much. God had already promised them the free gift of eternal life for believing and trusting in Him. And and that's something that it was a strange concept to me. I had no understanding of, it was always, my salvation depended on me and not God, and it was what I did. And so when I started seeing that the reason they were so confident is because they weren't relying on themselves. That's the key, is they're not relying on themselves, because every 10 times out of 10, you will fall short if you rely on your own works and your own actions. You can do nothing. The Bible says in Romans chapter 3 that there is no one righteous, not even one, no one who seeks God, no one who pleases God. We're all turned away. We're all bad. We're all corrupt. But that's why the gospel is so amazing. Because once you believe and you trust in Jesus and His finished work on the cross, when you really realize and who Jesus is and how much He loved you, that even before you were born, before you did anything good or bad, He already took it upon Himself to die for you, and that if you believe and you trust that, you're saved, man, that's amazing. It changes you. When you really find out the gist of the gospel and like how much God loves you, that's what moves you. And that's what I believe moved the apostles and why they were able to do what they did, because they weren't moving out of fear. They were moving out of love. They realized how much Jesus loved them, and that is what moved them. And so that's one thing that all these organizations lack is one thing is, I want to ask members, have you ever felt that after you heard a prophecy from the church, you went to an education, and you go and you leave and you feel pumped up because you heard a deep prophetic message and how this year is going to be, the end, and you feel so pumped up, and you go back and you're doing all these things, but as time goes by and you get closer and they start moving the goalposts, your faith starts, cooling down, and the fear goes away, and you slowly start, slowing down. Why is that? Why did the apostles, once they realized the love of God, why nothing slowed them down? You have to see for yourself. You have to realize that there's something very wrong with the way that we believe in these kind of churches, and the way that the apostles and the early church believe is totally different. And it's crazy. The once you really realize the truth, the freedom and how your heart slowly begins to change. It's amazing, man. It really is.
It's what you're describing, I think, is one of the things that still to me is one of the most unique things about Christianity that makes it stand apart from other religions and ideologies. It's this idea that, like, God at the outset gives, like, his favor, right at the beginning, right up front, he gives the favor, he gives the blessing, he gives, like, the love and acceptance and all that, rather than the fact that we even are discussing this concept like this that we keep using of goalposts, like that's the seems like in the gospel, like, the whole point of, like, the good news is that the goalposts have been, like, eliminated. There aren't goalposts anymore. It's not about goalposts, because like you're saying, it's not about you. It's not about your ability to do anything. It's about the emphasis is on what Jesus has already done, which I think should put a whole new meaning on Jesus's words, "It is finished." On the cross, when he says, "It is finished," it's just to put it in the context of this conversation, it's kind of his way of saying that there are no goalposts. And so, yeah, I think that's something that, whether it's the World Mission Society, Church of God, or Mormonism, or Islam, or any other religion, it does seem like this is a pretty significant, unique thing that Jesus and the apostles did teach, that does convey this idea again of a God who you get the blessing, you get the favor at the beginning, right up front with him. It's not that, if you preach enough, if you tithe enough, if you do enough, and if you keep yourself from doing all the bad things, and you commit yourself enough to doing all the good things, then maybe someday down the road you can maybe grab hold of some sort of peace with God. But it's always going to be up in the air. It's always going to come and go with how well you're doing. And so, yeah, that's just, it's an exhausting way to live. And so whether, you're in the World Mission Society, Church of God, or any group, even evangelical Christianity, I think falling into that self-focus and self-reliance, it's exhausting, and you can't have peace there. But it does seem like there is actually a peace that you can find when you approach God in a different way. And you get this concept that what if God is actually more like a loving dad, like a father who, loves us not because of anything we're going to do for him, but just because of he's our dad, he's our father. Like, I don't love my kid because of what they are going to do or not do for me. So there's some days where they're just, they're just jerks, and they disobey, and they they're just annoying, and they don't do anything for me. They're not benefiting me really. All they're doing is making me have less money because I got to feed them, and less time because I got to take care of them, and so, but what if God is more, like a dad who, I love my kids and I do anything for them, and I love them just as much on days that I feel like they're benefiting in me in some way, as I do when they're not. And so, yeah, if God is like that, more like a loving dad than he is a taskmaster or a employer who will pay us if we do our part, or love us if we put in our time on the time clock. I think if he's a dad that loves us unconditionally, then that's a much different, much better concept of God than what you're going to find, I think, in the WMSCOG. And I think, what it sounds like you're saying in that, did you find peace? You didn't have peace in the WMSCOG. So as you've kind of shifted how you think about these things, do you feel some of that peace in your life now?
Yeah, so right off the bat, man, one thing that I do not want to leave without mentioning this is I want to tell the members that, sometimes, my point of doing this is not to just say, leave the World Mission Society Church of God, just leave it and don't do nothing, just leave. No, that's not the point, because if you leave and you do nothing, then really you're still in the same boat. And it's just like any other of these, these churches that have twisted the scriptures and pretty much made people slaves. It's not enough to just leave and do nothing. Like, man, if you really believe in God, you have to take it from me. There's a loving God out there, and Jesus loves you, and God loves you. And really, there's peace. There's freedom in Christ, and that you can, that peace that you don't feel right now, you can feel it. You will feel it if you humbly seek the Lord. God is not going to turn you away. God is. Think of the parable of the prodigal son. It doesn't. A lot of people can take their experiences of leaving cults and say, "Why did God do this to me?" And turn to be an atheist, or turn to, "I don't believe in God because how could God do this to me?" I don't blame God at all for anything. I give thanks to God for everything that's happened in my life, because I know that God is a better storyteller than me. And I know that this is all part of God's story for me and my life, and I know that God has a good path for me to walk, and I know how to go through these things, because maybe if I wouldn't have came here, I wouldn't have been as interested to study the scriptures, and instead of thinking like all the negative things, and I wasted 11 years of my life and I did all these bad things. And no, I don't think that, because I think I met wonderful people within this organization that I want to help, that I want to reach out to. And just like how I led a lot of people, into, what I believe is, 100% flat out false gospel, I want to help that many people plus times 100 get out, and not just from this group, from, any group that's teaching these kind of, another Jesus, another gospel, because there is another Jesus, there is another gospel out there. And they can, Mormons will tell you they believe in Jesus, Jehovah's Witnesses will tell you they believe in Jesus, Church of God members, they will tell you they believe in Jesus. But that's why I said in the beginning, what Jesus do you believe in? What about Jesus do you believe in? What gospel do you believe in? Those are the two important things that we need to understand as Christians. And one of my heroes of the faith now has become Walter Martin. I don't know if you heard of him.
Yeah, he's I have clips of him in some of our the Staff of Moses.
The
first couple videos we play clips of him.
Yeah. So Walter Martin, I really recommend for the members of the Church of God or any group, go to YouTube and just YouTube the Kingdom of the Cults, and go through all those those videos in order. Those helped me a lot. And they made me see, because sometimes when you're a member of a certain organization and you're hearing things about that certain organization, you have you put your guard up, and sometimes you're not really hearing people out because you're feeling attacked. But when you hear, for instance, what helped me a lot when I was first coming out is when I was hearing people talk about, when I was hearing Walter Martin talk about Mormonism, or the Jehovah's Witness, or these different organizations, I started to realize there was a lot of similarities in these churches,
right.
With the WMSCOG Church of God, and how and I think that I wouldn't have noticed it, because if I was just hearing someone talk about the World Mission Society Church of God, I would hear it, but not with the same open mind as when I'm hearing them talk about another church. Now I'm starting to, see, I'm seeing the similarities now, like all these, and I'm realizing that all these cults really is the same. It's pretty much the same difference. They move the goalposts a lot. It's a different Jesus. It's a different gospel. There's no peace, and that's their design. That's how they keep you. It's a cycle. You're never supposed to feel peace. If you feel peace, you might not feel like you have to go, or you have to try your best there, or anything like that. But they want you to. That's why. And then when that's not enough, they have to bring in the scare tactics. Every year you're gonna go to heaven, and every year it just changes and changes, and they consume your life, and they tell you you got to be here every single day, because if you're not there every day, what happens is you have a chance to think for yourself. You have a chance to hear the other side, and so by them always keeping you there every single day, there's always something to do. You never have time to think for yourself. You never have time to really ask God, get on your knees and, have that relationship with God, and so.
Right. So what was it basically pretty soon after your surgery that you ultimately left? Was it a matter of months?
Yeah, so ultimately, I'm sorry, I keep missing the point, man. When
no,
I get so
I know
caught
there's
up
so many things here that I'm sure are inside of you that you want to talk about. So totally get it.
11 years worth of emotions, brother, right now. But anyway, so when I got out of the surgery, I like I said, I had kind of said no, Father and Mother got me out of this, and then I kind of start, thinking why I didn't feel this peace, and then I start studying the Bible and seeing the inconsistencies, and then as a few months went by, that's when I started to think to myself, man, I don't believe this is truth anymore. I just don't know how to come to grips with, me saying that felt, awkward. Like, do I really believe that this is no longer the truth? And so what happened was, there was nights when I remember I would pray, and I was just like, God, if you're, if it's you on my phone, listen to my prayers. And if it's you, Jesus, listen to my prayers. And I started, for the first time in 11 years, I started using the name Jesus, and I was like, not sure, but the thing was, when I started reading the Bible, and I started seeing verses like Jesus saying, come to me, and, ask me, and knock, and seek me. And I believed those, because one thing you're taught in the Church of God is you're supposed to believe the words of God are truth. So don't be biased on only the verses that they tell you to believe those 100%. Believe God's words. In Matthew 5, Jesus says, ask him, and he won't turn you away. And when I started asking God to reveal himself to me, I started to realize things in the Bible that I had never seen before. And after that, I started getting more comfortable praying to Jesus and asking Jesus, to the point to where once it clicked, like the gospel and who Jesus was, there was no turning back. it got to a point to where I realized, and it just hit me, like, did what I believed was a false gospel, and there's no way I could ever go back to that. There is no freedom. I was a slave. I was believing it was a false god, and and I felt, all these emotions came inside, and man, I cried. So many emotions were going through me, and I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone because literally everyone that I knew was inside the church. All my loved ones are, inside the church. And so, you ask me something?
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering then, since you've left, like, what has that experience been like leaving, and how did people respond? 11 years of being a part of a group like that, and then to leave, I can't imagine what that does, probably relationally and internally as well. But what has that been like? How have people responded to that?
Okay, so just to give some examples, like my wife, she's still in the church, and I don't want to, because I don't want to cause no friction with her in the church or anything like that. But she's still in the church. She still believes in what the church teaches, and I'm not here judging her, keeping her like, hey, I'm forcing you to not. That's not. Ultimately we have a free will to make our decisions, but obviously there's friction that automatically comes with because when you're married, you're one, and so obviously you care about one another, and if one person has the truth and the other person thinks they have the truth, then you dialogue, and sometimes agree to disagree. Sometimes it gets a little heated, but my thing is, I'm not arguing to say that I'm right or wrong. My whole thing, what's in the Bible. We can trust the words of God, and so that's how I'm kind of taking it. I'm taking it day by day. I'm praying to God, that His will be done, and I do believe that eventually people are gonna see the light, man, because I feel like one thing is about the World Mission Society Church of God is that it's a fairly new cult, and so a lot of these churches that's been here for hundreds of years, like, there's a lot of resources on them, so people can go to the resources. Right. If people have questions about, they're doubting, and they can go, and they're seeing these things, and they're like, okay, this helps me get out. But when it comes to the World Mission Society Church of God or these new movements, there's not that much resources out there. And so, this is why I appreciate things that you're doing, Jordan, because you're helping a lot of people. You help me in a lot of ways, and you're helping a lot of people, man. And I thank God for you. And this work is really important because there's not that many resources on the World Mission Society Church of God, and and sometimes you hear certain videos of people leaving the church, and but they seem like they're in a sad or dark place, and and so sometimes members looking from outside in, they kind of have questions, doubts, but then when they see certain videos, and then they don't really feel like well, if I leave here and I'm just gonna be worse off, then I might as well just stay here. And so I feel like I wanted to come out here and say that don't get me wrong, I'm going through a lot of things right now. My life is not perfect. I have my battles. I'm dealing with health issues and certain things like that. But inside of me, I'm happy and I'm at peace. And like Paul said, to live is Christ and to die is gain. And and so I'm more happier now than I've ever been. I feel so much peace. I feel like the Bible is making so much more sense to me now, and like I can trust the words of God, and it's so different when you're being taught something as to when you feel God is teaching you, and you're realizing these things as you're studying the scriptures, and these are things that no one can take away from you. It's like really what Jeremiah prophesied is that when the new covenant is established, you don't need someone to teach you. God himself is going to teach you. And you know, study the scriptures, you know, study the scriptures, get on your knees, you know, pray to God. He listens, he's there, you know, there is a true God. And you know, we have to, it's our job, you know, you know, a lot of people think, well, if I'm in a cult, I've actually heard this from members. Well, you know, if I am wrong, it won't be my fault because, you know, someone else taught me this, or someone else, you know, is the leadership's fault. But remember, Jesus said, if the blind lead the blind, they both fall in the pit. See, again, we have no excuse because we have the scriptures before us. You know, sometimes I think like the early Christians, like, man, my heroes, like, speaking of heroes, man, they're really like, wow, amazing examples, because, you know, they didn't even have the, you know, and those times, like, it was, you didn't have your hands on a copy of the Canaanized Bible. You didn't, you know, they didn't have all these, you know, scriptures in one to where they could study it to their heart's content. You know, they were getting persecuted. You know, the early stage of the church, you know, they had to hide caves and holes to worship God, speak the name of Jesus. They were getting martyred and killed. And now we have the convenience of the scriptures in front of us. We can study these every day on our days off. When we get off of work on the weekend, it all makes me feel guilty how much, you know, time I actually spend on studying the words of God, when the apostles, they would love nothing more but to be able to have what we have now. And we have so many resources, you know. So now when I say that it is, we are going to be held accountable, because to, you know, what does the Bible say to, you know, to the person that, you know, who's receiving much will be, you know, required of him, you know. So we have all the, you know, we have the words of God, and we're able to make a conscious choice of, you know, what is truth and what is not, obviously with God's help. But we need to put our you know, faith and what we believe in the fire and see if it comes out, you know. Because again, a lot of these people, even there's a lot of people like that were born into the church, kids that are now, you know, my son is 15 years old, and he grew up in the church, and you know, he doesn't, you know, I feel like there's a lot of people kind of like how I was saying in the beginning, I was a Christian. I called myself a Christian, but I didn't know anything about God or Jesus other than what I was taught. So if someone was to ask me, why is Jesus, you know, the Christ? Why do you? I wouldn't have an answer for it. And so, you know, I encourage, you know, the members, you know, even the younger members that are growing up now, you know, and like that were grown up in the church, don't really know why they believe, you know, or members that are there and kind of just started going because they were scared and World War III was going to break out and you need to come into the church, and, you know, ask, why do you believe in them as God? And does it stand up to the scriptures, you know? And ultimately, like, I want to, you know, with your help, Jordan, I kind of want to maybe in the future, you know, we can go through these sermons that they give and really, you know, see that they're actually, you know, they're not even half of the prophecies that they say are like these amazing prophecies and that show without a shadow of doubt that they're God. We can shut them down from the very beginning, cutting them down from the roots, because they're not even real prophecies to begin with.
Right. But that does kind of lead me to, I have a few more questions, just quick little questions I wanted to ask to kind of wrap this up. As you've come out and we're talking about the Bible, so you were like, you were a really passionate Bible guy. You still are, but you know, as I knew you when you were still a member, I knew that you were somebody who really passionately believed the doctrine and studied. And I think even within the church, you were kind of viewed as one of the guys who had all the answers. And if you had questions, you know, go to Edgar, sort of thing. And so, you know, when I think about you in that time, I think about somebody who really confidently believed that you had the truth and that the WMSCOG doctrine was just this profound, deep, like, understanding of the Bible that nobody else had. So my question is just, do you believe that still? Obviously, I know, but do you believe, or how do you view now the WMSCOG and the way that they handle the Bible? Do you think that they have like some profound, deep grasp of the Bible and prophecy and things like that? And kind of what's your take on all that at this point?
Yeah, I believe that the way they handle the Bible is very irresponsible. I don't think that anything of what they say, their so-called truth is profound at all. I believe that there's a lot of groups that, focus on the scriptures a lot and come up with a lot of prophecies, a lot of mathematical equations, a lot of ways to twist your mind around, like the Seventh-day Adventists. Even one of the biggest, studies in the World Mission Society Church of God that I remember reading my father. Thank God, I forgot to mention a lot of my family's out. I'm still working on some of them, but my dad that came out, he used to always say how the number one prophecy that got him to believe 100% was the prophecies of Daniel's, and how it was so amazing, and the history behind it. But the thing is, prophecy didn't even originate with the Church of God. Seventh-day Adventists, came up with that prophecy. And the funny thing is, even I remember there was a point when we were learning to teach that, and we were, literally the leader of the church at that time was printing out diagrams from a Seventh-day Adventist article in order to print it out for us to, draw it out on the board. But we're using Seventh-day Adventist, teaching, a way of teaching their diagram, their writing, to teach our prophecies. And so, a lot of these prophecies, I've heard Kelsey mention in the past about how coming from the East and fig tree were, preached by the Unification Church, and even, the funny thing is, like, I can't wait to get to these prophecies, because even coming from the East, like, that's not even talking about Anselm. That's talking about, Cyrus, the physical King Cyrus coming from Persia. And, there's so many, so I already know what they're going to say. It's a spiritual King Cyrus. Well, when we get to that part, we'll see if the Bible is talking about it. Everything is spiritual when it benefits, us, them, but anyway, but yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question.
I think it does. Yes. So you do see issues now with the way that the WMSCOG handles the Bible. Yeah. So a couple more things, just real quick. And I know there's so many things within these questions that we could create a whole series of videos, and I hope we can do more in the future. But if somebody asked you, which I'm doing right now, to give, just a couple, two or three reasons why the WMSCOG, the World Mission Society Church of God, is unbiblical. What's sort of like, what would be the first, like, just a couple of like the really big things that you would just immediately think of to say, okay, this reason here is why the WMSCOG is clearly false. Like, what's just a couple things you would tell somebody to very quickly point them to why they should not trust this group?
So right off the back, man, no change of heart whatsoever. Your heart never changes, and that's the one thing that God is looking for. Number two, no peace. You have no peace when you're in the church. It doesn't matter what you do. They keep moving the goalposts. You keep moving it for yourself because of what you understand in your head, and it's never enough. You're never, and guess what? You're never going to be enough, because it doesn't depend on you. That's the problem. So, you're never going to have peace. Your heart's not going to change. And if I had to pick a third one, you become legalistic. You become what you earnestly preach against, calling people Pharisees and Sadducees. That's literally what you become. Because you're basically going out and telling people that they can be saved if they don't observe this, observe that, and basically you become a teacher of the law, and you become self-righteous, and you believe that you're saved because of the things that you do, the actions that you do, the law that you keep, whether you want to call it a old covenant, new covenant, old law, new law. It ultimately depends on what you're doing. Well, what's the difference between the Pharisees and Sadducees and us? Because isn't that exactly what the Pharisees and Sadducees were doing? Is they had legalistic righteousness. They believed they knew everything. They didn't have any more room for God's words. They weren't open-minded. They closed themselves out because they thought they couldn't be taught anything else. They knew everything they needed to know. They kept the law perfectly to a T. But again, God said to them, inside your dead man's bones. And so, we need to think about those things. Everything that Jesus, my encouragement is read one of my favorite chapters is Matthew chapter 5. What you want to talk about, sermons like, man, this pastor, Jeff Durbin, Frank Turek, Walter Martin, all these, they got some, really good sermons out there. I go to a Christian church now, I go to different churches, Christian churches. I realize now that it's not, the church itself can't save you, that's another thing we can talk about another day. Like, I feel so free right now. I got baptized in a Christian church now, I feel amazing. I feel like I received the gift of the Holy Spirit. I feel like my heart's changing. I feel great. But as far as what were we saying before this? What was the topic we were on, Jordan? Slip my mind.
No, you're good. I asked you about like the main things you would tell somebody is to tell them why the WMSCOG is false. So,
right. So
I feel like you're. Go ahead.
Yeah, so again, it's the peace, is the change of heart, and you become legalistic, and and so when you start going to these churches, man, when you actually be around real Christians, you see there's a total difference there. These they're not legalistic. They're 100% dependent on God's grace and God's mercy and what God is for them, and they have peace inside of them, and you can see their hearts. It's not a superficial love bombing that wears off with time or with conditions. It's genuine love, when you're sick, you know what I mean? Like, I've gone to, these churches now, and, the brothers and sisters call me, like, hey, Edgar, how you doing? We've been praying for you, like, I never got that before. And,
well, you're not allowed to talk about if you're doing bad, right? Like no. You're not allowed to be unhappy or to express issues or struggles or problems. You have to keep that inside and just pretend like it's not there.
Yeah, you're a child of promise, like Isaac. Isaac's always smiling, so you better not be frowning when you're in the church of God, because then you can't be Isaac. We literally have a new song in the new song book that says we have to be like Isaac, like a child of laughter, child of promise, always smiling, always laughing.
AKA, you got to be a fake puppet robot that does not know how to express emotions and has to feel afraid and shamed and guilty to express real struggles. And it's crazy to me because just the relational aspect of that, where you can't have real relationship with people. That's something that always baffles me to learn about the group, is how members are discouraged from really getting close to one another. It seems like, I don't know if that was your experience, but it seems often like members are discouraged by the leadership from like really connecting or really being human beings together and developing real friendships. And it seems like it all comes back kind of full circle back to this whole thing of information control and thought control, and them wanting to be able to fully control every individual and not let if people start to get together and talk about what they're really struggling with, what they're really thinking, what they're really feeling, then that could create problems. And so I think that's part of why they don't allow that, and they kind of try to keep everybody in their system, keep everybody in their spots doing their thing, so that, you know, again, like robots, they'll stay on their proper place on the assembly line and just keep the whole machine moving. And if one person starts to express emotions, it could kind of throw the whole thing out of whack. And so it's just crazy when you see how all this stuff operates.
Man, you just hit the nail on the head with a sledgehammer, bro. Like honestly, like when you said that about you know, say again. I want to be able to make sure I catch the point of which the last thing that you said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just talking about like I just heard this recently just from another member. I was listening to another member share their testimony about like not being allowed to be in relationship, really, like real relationship where you can express your real struggles and not wanting members to get close together. And to me, I don't know, I look at all that, and that just points me back to this whole idea of control, like thought control, and that they go ahead.
And that makes me, that's exactly the biggest, like, that's so crucial that you say that, because if they were to allow that, for us to actually tell each other, like, you know, hey, I'm actually going through this. I'm not perfect. I'm dealing with this sin, or I feel like this. I have this weakness. I'm sad. Then the church all of a sudden doesn't seem perfect. All of a sudden you start to see these, you know, weaknesses, and they don't want that. See, you're supposed to put on the front to make the new people and everyone around you feel like everyone is in great spirits. Everyone is so happy. Everyone has peace. Everyone is, but in reality, if they really knew what was inside of each other, wow.
And so, like, for those listening, it's just ask yourself, why would you want to be a part of that? Like it's a show. It's like a big stage play. It's not real. Like you're rather than you actually being involved in something that's producing real peace and solving, you know, the real problems in your life and in your heart. You're just having to pretend like it is. You're having to fake it, and it's just why? Like, is that if there is a God who loves us and who the Bible says he is that really how his church would operate? Does God really like expect us to fake it, and just like if we're feeling all this pain and struggle, God just wants us to like smile, like that's gonna get him, like that's gonna he's gonna be like duped by that and think that we're really fun. I mean, like what's even going on there? Like why would you want to be a part of something like that? It's just it's a charade. It's a game. It's like you're all just playing this giant game that's not doing anything for you. You know, there's no winners. You're all just guilty and full of shame and don't have peace, like you're saying. Man,
what to even talking about it, even just hearing that, like, I can't believe that, like, I was in there for 11 years, and that, you know, like, man, if I could go back in time and, you know, tell myself when I first came into the church, like, you know, get out, you know, and you know, read the Bible for yourself, and don't just believe everything that they tell you. You know, they limit the information so much. They you know, remember there is no darkness in Christ. The Bible says that there's no darkness in God whatsoever. So why do they hide so much information from you? What you know, the true gospel, the true church, the true light of the world would never do things like that. They hide so many things from you. They take, they take books, chapters, they constantly they change their doctrine, and then they tell you that they never said something. Right. When I have documents, like I literally just showed you an agenda I have from 2012 where they told us, that the completion of Jerusalem temple was going to be the end of the world. And then, they changed it up, and then it was 2014 and 2015 was the year of Jubilee. And that was supposed to be the end of the world. And I was sitting in a sermon in Wichita, Kansas, inside the church, when the leader of the church at that time, in plain service, and members that are here in Wichita know that I'm not lying, he rose his right hand in the middle of service while he was on the altar, and said, if the mighty angel herself, meaning Mother, rose her right hand and said that it's going to be the end, and this year 2015, if she said that, then I'm raising my right hand and saying that this is it, this is the end. Yeah. And then I remember during that time. And later, we can, if I have people that can verify this, like the preaching got so out of hand that there was, preaching what we were being taught, that the end was coming in September 2015, that the FBI came to the Wichita church to investigate what was going on. Why they were hearing that we were pretty much threatening that there was a nuclear war, and that they wanted to know if we were, because that's what we were preaching, doomsday. The end was coming, to where the FBI had to get involved. Yeah. And then once it got closer to that date, just like in 2012 and just like in 2010, that's not really what we meant. It's a spiritual thing. And then 2007,
you misunderstood us. You misunderstood us. You took it the wrong way, brother.
Yeah. Exactly. And so every year it's something, man. And so, I know that some churches, because every church is the same thing, but there are some differences. Literally, I could tell you, here in Wichita, in the Denver, Colorado, the Midwest region, man, we've heard so many prophecies, every year we were going to go home. I remember after 2015, a lot of people left the church. So kind of 2016 went down the drain a little bit. So 2017 comes around, they had to do something. So 2017, what they said was, this is the year of resurrection. So now, 2015, we were supposed to go to heaven because it was the spiritual Passover, 2014 and 2015. The reality of that is 2014, 2015. So we're living in the spiritual Passover, the year of Jubilee. That's when we were supposed to go to heaven. But it didn't happen. So 3 days after Passover, after Jesus' burial, he was resurrected on the 17th. So prophetically, spiritually, 2017 is the spiritual year of resurrection. So what happens on resurrection? We're supposed to go to heaven, right? So we were like, let's do our best to, go out and preach and resurrect, and we're going to ascend to heaven. Well, guess what? Everybody's still here, right? So then 2017 passes. Now it's 2018. Well, they had to come up with a new prophecy for 2018. So what was the deal for 2018? Well, you didn't know? This is the actual year that everything's supposed to go down, because guess what? If Ansan Hong was still to be alive, he would have been 100 years old this year. So guess what? How old was Abraham when he had the child of promise, Isaac, born of Sarah? He was 100 years old.
This is painful.
So now, exactly. So Ansan Hong is 100 years old. This is the year when the spiritual Isaac, the real child of mother, is going to come out and do his work.
I buy it.
We're gonna go to heaven. This is the 100th year. Well, guess what? It's 2022, and everybody's still here. So and then I've been through every single prophecy, and so, and that's the thing that's sad, is that they're just going to keep doing it. and doing it.
Yes, and that's why I laugh because part of it is like it really is just humorous the way you describe it, and I think you're just a good storyteller. But the other part of it is like I'm probably laughing because I feel so much frustration about it that it's just like who is it that's at the top that's making these decisions, and what is going on in their minds? Do they really believe that these prophecies are true? Like how? It's just like the mindlessness is what it is. Like it's like people are taking their brains out and putting them in a fridge or something and just walking off. It's like how can you not see that, guys? This isn't working. This isn't panning out. And at what point does this thing lose credibility? Like at what point do you say, okay, maybe these people don't have a clue about anything?
Man, and it's so crazy, man, because like again, when you study the Bible, it's like a total different, like I mean, you have instances where the apostles as Jesus, like they're trying to get a end time eschatology, like Jesus, are you at this time gonna restore the kingdom? And Jesus rebukes them. And I'm like, man, it's not for you to know. You know, it is not none of your business. You know, you just exactly. And you know, but here it's like it seems like, and it's not just. I'm not just isolating the Church of God. This is a similarity that happens in all these different organizations, all these different cults. They have one thing in common: is scare tactics. Every year they come up with a different prophecy, and the reason why is to keep you there and to keep you busy and to keep you doing all these efforts because to make you think that this year is it, and then once it doesn't happen, they move on to the next one and to the next one and to the next one.
Because it's a great tool for productivity, and I think like this is for some reason, I think you're getting to a lot of probably what the reason cult groups have just this fascination, this obsession with prophecy, end time prophecy, and making predictions that obviously never come to pass. But I think if you want to know if you're in like a cult, like a cult that is just probably not going to benefit you, and that's dangerous in a lot of ways, then the one way to determine that is to see whether or not they have this sort of like this obsession with prophecy and end times and making these predictions. But something about it seems to just be sort of something that is in a lot of just religious people in general. Like, because I've seen this within evangelicalism. It's just been something that's frustrated me a lot, and it's not as like pronounced and clear as it is in cults, where there's like the whole organization is making like these proclamations that, you know, the end is coming in such and such a date. That's happened in like little weird Christian churches that are basically cults in themselves, but I've seen it like with individuals or like different people within, and I'm not even talking like cults now, I'm talking just evangelical Christianity, where people get this like weird fascination with like the end is near and things are about to get really, really bad. And this year, like I mean, there were Christians who were talking about 2012 and I think 2014, and like I've grown up with this my whole life, with just this idea that things are about to get really bad. And we better all be ready because things are about to get bad. And I don't know what that is, but something about certain people are just more like psychologically bent to like get obsessed with these sort of things. And I'm not gonna lie, it frustrates me to no end. I think it's just the mindlessness of it. And when people have experienced being wrong over and over and over again, and then they keep doing it and they keep making the predictions, and they seem to still think that they're going to get it right. It's just, I don't know what that is. I don't know what could cause somebody to enter into that sort of state of mind. But that's a clear sign that the WMSCOG is false.
I mean, how many failed prophecies do you need before you start to realize, like, maybe there's something, maybe this isn't the perfect truth, because, that there's a lot of lies that,
right.
They've been saying the world's going to end for some time now, and we're still here. So, either God's lying or the Bible's lying. Something's not right,
Exactly.
But it's sad to say, but when you're so deep into these churches, and again, it goes back to when they basically make you trust them. When you trust them, man, they can literally tell you anything, and you'll believe it. And again, that's why the Bible tells us, we shouldn't put our trust in man. Our trust should always be on God, and we should always be able to, examine even an apostle. Again, I go back to the example of Apostle Paul in the book of Acts, chapter 17, with the Berean Jews. He, they didn't look at him as, he look at this super apostle, we cannot question him. Even Apostle Paul, they were, they were making sure that what he was saying was true, but these members, they don't dare to, question anything of the truth, even though the Bible is telling you, test the spirits, find out if it's really from God, it's sad, but we, it's also, it's also, I feel like everything is according to God's timing, and I think that now is also the time that, I believe that God puts us all in different, places that where we need to do our part, and I think that, I feel that God wants to shine His light on the World Mission Society Church of God, and it's time for people to come out of there and a lot of these cults, and it's our job to spread the kingdom. Daniel's is one of the books that I used to struggle with a lot, and now I realize, like, in the book of Daniel, it's all focused on God's kingdom and how God's kingdom appeared, and God's kingdom is right now being advanced, and we are that kingdom. That was in Revelation chapter 1, that we are being built into a kingdom of priests, and right now we're doing God's work, and it's time.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a video on Daniel, because I know that was a hang up for you for a while, and so let's tackle that topic as well sometime soon, because I think that's probably something that hangs up a lot of people. If you were hung up by it, chances are there's probably a lot of other people that get hung up by the Daniel prophecies as well, and it might just be one of those things that is keeping a lot of people kind of stuck in the group. So that's a topic I actually think I have a note that we need to cover that sometime with you, because I know that was a big thing for you. So.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. Hey, part 2. Stay tuned, right?
Yes. Well, we'll definitely have you back. And there's so many questions I want to ask you that I'm just having to make myself stop at this point, because I know we've been going for a while. I'm sure you could go forever, but yes. Once we get these out and kind of introduced you onto the channel and kind of let you share as you have a little bit of your story, definitely want to have you back. And I want to just say here at the end, and I'm gonna let you kind of give some final thoughts, but I just want to say, like, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, that the truth should have nothing to hide. And to WMSCOG leaders, pastors, deacons, even members watching this, we are inviting you sincerely, not because we want to harm you or attack you or make you look stupid. We're just inviting you to come and have a conversation, whether privately or, as I think it should be done, publicly on a platform like this, so that people can hear and people can weigh both sides of the story. If you have the truth, then there should be no problem with coming and having a dialogue with us in a video and just letting people hear both sides. Even Mormon apologists will do public debates. Jehovah's Witnesses will do public debates with Christians. Muslims will do public debates with Christians. Catholics, all sorts of different religions and different Christian denominations will come together and have dialogues, have debates, have discussions, present both sides. And so the fact that the World Mission Society Church of God does not do that, it just honestly it just makes them look bad. It's just like if they want to make themselves look like a illegitimate, false, like kind of creepy cult, like then keep doing that. Keep kind of hiding off in your own secluded corner, staying in your own echo chamber, and not letting people actually hear your side of the story. That tells us that you have something to hide. It tells us that you're not confident enough to actually come out in a public forum and defend your beliefs. And so we're again, this YouTube channel is a great platform where you are invited to come do that. And it doesn't even have to be me. You know what I'd like more than for you guys, like a deacon or a pastor, to come on and talk with me or debate me. I'd love if you come on and just have a public discussion with somebody like Edgar, somebody who has been in the group for 11 years and who was very passionate about it and now sees things very differently. Come on with him and have a discussion, and you share your side and let him share his side, and I can moderate, and we'll just have a respectful conversation. We've put out this invite over and over, and I'm going to keep doing it because I would really love to have that. I know in live videos in the past we've had some current members jump on, but it doesn't happen very often. And I'd love to actually be able to schedule something where it can be a little bit more, set up. I would love to moderate something like that to where I can make sure both sides are being able to represent themselves fairly. So I just wanted to say that. And then Edgar, just kind of as a final thoughts, I just wanted you to share. I know you have family and friends in the group, and I know that you're aware there's a lot of people that are still involved in this group. So I just want you to maybe say some final words of like, what would you want to say to those people that are still in the group, family and friends? What would kind of be on your heart to share to those people?
So, right off the back, I want to tell all my loved ones, and this is not just family or friends, like everyone in the church, everyone in these, organizations, but really my heart is obviously right now towards the Church of God, because part of that, I know, the ins and outs of, the teaching and how the people, how they feel inside, and without the peace. And I just want to tell everybody, like, I love every single one of you guys. I'm praying for you guys, and I hope that you guys take the challenge. It's not about me. It's not about Jordan. It's not about any other Christian. It's about your salvation, your peace with God. Do you really feel that? Like, is it superficial? Is it, do you say that you have peace, then on a certain day when you make a mistake, does that peace change? Do you all of a sudden not feel that same level of peace when you miss a Sabbath day or when you don't tithe? And if you do, then that's not the gospel. That the Apostle Paul didn't feel that if he made a mistake that he lost his salvation, and that he needed to wait for Passover to come again the next year in order to feel secure again, and or the Sabbath, and honestly, don't think that I'm trying to attack the members of the Church of God, or just trying to fight with you guys, or say that I'm right and that you're wrong. No, I'm honestly, I have nothing to gain out of this. I'm not making any money doing this. I'm not getting famous.
Edgar, did you not get your check yet?
Hey, no, right? No, right? So I'm not getting.
That was a joke, by the way. That was a joke.
And honestly, it's not like I'm just gonna be looked at as public enemy number one with the last remaining relationship I have inside the church. Even with my I'm telling people, like, my wife is still in the church. I have close one. I have nothing to gain by doing this and everything to lose. But I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. And, God has put it in my heart to do this. And I cannot just, keep it to myself, knowing that something is wrong, because I would want somebody to contend for me, and like the Bible says, freely you have received, freely give. And, I believe that God commanded us to go out into the world and make disciples of all nations, teaching them everything that he commanded us. And so, as Christians, we're called to do that. So, I'm going to do what, even if this, rubs people the wrong way, because I know that before, things like this would rub me the wrong way. And I would think, certain things, and I would be like, man, this person is just attacking my faith, and doing all these things. But you do these things in the hope that you plant a seed in someone, and that that person doesn't just believe what you say, but examines if what you're saying is true, and actually willing to search the scriptures, and study the Bible with an open heart and open mind. Take the lenses off, take the glasses off for yourself. Just one day, stay home, study the Bible, pray to God to empty out your head everything that you learn, and just be humble. Come to God like a child, and see if you don't see something different when you start reading the scriptures for what they really are. And reading these books from the beginning, reading the context, understanding what's going on in these churches, why Paul's writing to Galatians, how he had established the church, left, and then comes back, and they're turning to another gospel. So he begins to explain to them what the gospel is. Again, he's reiterating the freedom in Christ, and how not to. Why would you go back to being a slave after accepting the truth, and giving them, telling them that they're going to be slaves, he gives the examples that they understand, like Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac, and how Ishmael was, according to the law, he was supposed to receive the inheritance, but it wasn't even though it was supposed to be according to the law, it was given to Isaac through a promise. It was a gift. And how later he compares that in Galatians 4, he's talking about old covenant, new covenant. Old covenant, you're a slave, and new covenant, it's the free gift. And now you understand. When you read from the beginning, you're seeing the context, you're understanding why Paul's using these examples, why he's, in our days, he would use, an apostle would give us an example that we would understand. He's speaking to the people that they've grown up with, understanding Abraham and Abraham's story. So of course he's going to give them examples. Like my point is this: when you're reading the book of Galatians from the very beginning, understanding the context, you're going to realize when you get to Galatians chapter 4 that he's not secretly introducing one God in Korea. Yeah. I trust me when I tell you that that was not his point. And and that when you read these books, from the beginning, you're gonna realize these things. You're really seeking with a honest, humble heart and mind. You're gonna see. And so, my encouragement to all the members is to really ask God and pay attention to those to those things that are in your heart and mind, because that's your spirit telling you something. That's your spirit telling you something's not sitting right. When you see that you guys just keep preaching to the the wealthy, the university students, every time that the Church of God never goes out to the places of poverty where the people actually need help, but the times they will help the homeless or do a sock drive or
they call the news.
It's the news, the media. That's the only time they go to those areas, is when they make a huge deal about it. It's never from the heart. It's never heart. So even what does Jesus say? When you give, make sure your hand
don't sound the trumpet. Yeah,
don't sound the trumpet.
Your left hand. Don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, and don't do your works before to be seen by men.
Exactly.
Or you have your reward. It's like, yeah, read Jesus's words, guys. Just read those things and see that the WMSCOG, who claims to be so biblical and concerned about the commands of God, these things that Jesus emphasized, ignore. Sorry to cut you off, but I think that's such a great point.
And you're absolutely right, and pay attention to that, and pay attention to Jesus, not only Jesus, the apostles, the disciples, the early brothers and sisters. Read the book of James. The Church of God tends to always spiritualize things that doesn't benefit them. So, when the Bible says help the poor in the spirit, or that's a spiritual. Like when Jesus was hanging out with the blind or healing blind, and that was a spiritual. He wasn't really trying to hang out with you. It had a spiritual meaning. Well, then why in James does James say, look out for the orphans, the widows, well, what's the spiritual meaning behind that? When the Bible says, they knock on your door and, they say they're hungry, and you close the door in their face and say, stay hungry and
abide in you.
Yeah, how is that spiritual? Those physical. Jesus said even a cup of water, whatever, if you give a cup of water to one of these brothers of mine, you also did to me. And
it's interesting, Edgar, that that scripture that they use so often where Jesus says, depart from me, I never knew you, and there's the sheep and the goats parable where Jesus says, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was cold, you clothed me, and so on. And he says, you did all these things, and when you did that to the least of these, you did it to me. And then he says, basically these people are saved, and the ones who didn't do that are, he says, I don't know you. But it's interesting that the determining factor for these people's relationship with God and whether they were okay or not, doing the right thing or not, had nothing to do with things like Passover or Sabbath. Jesus doesn't say you kept the Sabbath and therefore you're good, or you kept Passover and so you kept Passover. Whenever you did that, you did it with me. No, what he emphasizes is how they were treating and responding to people around them. Were they loving their neighbor? And these people were clothing and visiting those in prison and doing all these things that are like the exact opposite, the things that the WMSCOG actually teaches members not to do. And exactly. These were Jesus's determinations, like the determining factors of whether or not they knew him and whether or not they were quote unquote saved, was whether they were doing these things to the homeless and those in prison and the hungry and the naked. And so it had nothing to do with Passover or Sabbath. And that's just is so significant to me that all this comes back to like something that's been said in the past video we've talked about, like the lesser, the more weighty matters of the law and the less weighty matters of the law. And Jesus talked about how the Pharisees they would strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. And that's exactly what these guys do, is they focus on like the lesser, less important, less weighty, less significant things that God isn't as concerned about, things that are just more physical and outward, and then they neglect the things that really matter. Ultimately, like humility and love for neighbor, love and kindness and compassion. These are the things that Jesus emphasized. These are the things that seem to be emphasized that are important to God, and these are things that are just seem to be consistently neglected by this group.
Again, again, you make a great point. Jesus was focusing on the change of the heart instead of, outward, legalistic righteousness. And that's one thing that, these cults, that they don't understand that. They, to them, it's all about, it's all about them. It's all about what you do, and as to where Jesus was always focusing on, changing of the heart. And the only way you're going to change your heart is through the Holy Spirit, and God working in you and knowing who God is. Because, we can say we love. That's one thing I realize, is that even the word love, we throw the word love around a lot. Even, people of the world throw the word love around a lot. But if you don't know who God is, if you don't know who Jesus Christ is, you don't know the word love. You don't understand the word love. You're not capable of loving without knowing the definition of true love, and that's Jesus Christ. And so really, like, again, again and again, I'm going to stress the point. I'm going to encourage the members, like, really, ask yourself, like, do you really feel peace inside? Like, do you, all these questions and doubts, like, it just doesn't, the things that doesn't click, don't put them to the back burner, because trust me, they're not going to go away. Trust me, from the very beginning, I had questions and I had doubts, and I kept pushing them in the back burner and the back burner, and I was doing all these things for the church, and it did nothing for me. I never got any peace out of it. I did everything that you asked me, and I still got no peace out of it. And again, just I'm praying that people open their eyes and open their hearts and minds. You know what I mean? To really understand what God is trying to tell us through the scriptures and what He's trying to communicate to us. But man, I'm looking forward to because I could talk all night and day. I got so many verses that I want to bring up that are like for in a future time of like all my go-tos. All my go-to verses where, I would be like, I would use this verse to specifically get someone when they would say, we don't need to keep the commandments. And like now, I'm like, I look at that same
You're
verse.
Ready. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's why, it really, like, anyone that wants to, come on here, any, deacon, pastor, again, not for me to be right, to prove that I'm right, or them to prove they're right, but for the benefit of the listener. If you really care about the listeners, you got to think how many members of the Church of God are listening to this right now. If you care about their souls, if you feel that you have nothing to hide, then come on here, and let's talk. Let's see what the truth is, and obviously the goal is to come on a platform, publicly debate, like the apostles, the early church members showed an example of, even to the members that don't feel that they can do that have questions. Reach out. I'm more than willing to sit down with anyone as well. Like, any day, let me know. And, even if I have to take a day off work, I'm more than willing to meet with anybody and, answer any questions. And, really, this is all for the glory of God. So I'm just excited for the journey.
Well, Edgar, thank you so much for sharing story and sharing that. Again, I know it's been a super long time coming. I'm glad we finally were able to do this, and I feel like it's just the beginning. I feel like we just kind of scratched the surface of all that we could talk about and all that you could share. 11 years inside of there is just a long time with a lot of experiences, a lot of things that you saw. I'm sure you could probably tell us things that would surprise us and shock us still. And I think, hopefully we can get to a lot of that in future videos. I think this is just the beginning of you being on the channel. So, thanks for being here. It's been a lot of fun.
Hey, man, thanks for having me, and look forward to doing a part 2 and sharing the message.